Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Ben Blanquera with Rackspace Technology, the world's leading multi-cloud services provider. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Caroline Carruthers. She's a data cheerleader, author, CEO at Carruthers and Jackson. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you very much for that intro.
What's my first step as a leader? How do I even organize? Like, how do you, what's the, let's hear step one playbook, but how do we organize to be successful in governance and ethics?
So I think a lot of it we've already started talking about. So you mentioned, the step one of understanding your ethics is just understand your governance.
Yeah.
So, and I have to say, the minefield that I've seen most organizations fall in when it comes to governance is they try and impose a one-size-fits-all a structure to the organization when it comes to governance. If you do that, it will be like boiling the ocean. The very first step, and my first hint and tip, I guess, is to understand which is your valuable data and which is the data that actually you're not too worried about. So which I would term it as which is your crown jewels and which is the same as yesterday's newspaper.
Okay,
And
so
then
organize, categorize your data, right?
Categorize your data, and then that way you can put the appropriate level of governance around those kind of things. Because if somebody knows that the data has to be 100% accurate, and I'm talking about data here that would save lives or cost billions, or it's the kind of, this data has to be 100% accurate to be able to function as an organization. You would put the right amount of appropriate resources, effort, technology around that to ensure that that has to stay in that kind of state. For something that actually you only need 60 to 70 to 80% accuracy on, you don't need the same level of rigor and controls. So I think that was my first hint and tip, is if you understand the data and the categorization of it, you can then put the right level of control in. The reason I say all of this is because the vast majority of who's looking after are people. So they're the ones who's going to be interacting with this data, helping you govern, using it, making the best out of it. If a small part of it is locked down and they have to be very careful on how they use it, that's a lot easier for people to absorb than this rigor being applied to every single thing they do. So you'll have a lot more hearts and minds on this journey with you if you only impose this kind of level of rigor on a smaller data set and people understand why it's the valuable data set.
Got it. So it starts with the education, like what is this data? Why does it matter? What's the implications?
And this is how I need your help to look after it.
And I love your sort of notion that this isn't a checkbox, right? If you're a digital company, guess what? You're a data company. End of story.
We talk about digital driving, we talk about data driving the digital agenda, but we also need to take time to understand that people drive the data agenda. And anything involving people cannot be a checkbox exercise because we're not wired that way.
Oh, I love that. Data driving digital, but ultimately it's people who drive the data. And we've got to have a much more pragmatic sort of journey approach with this notion.
Absolutely.
All right, Caroline, I've just come in. I'm a fresh young whippersnapper CDO, and I'm going, Caroline, help me. What give me can you provide me three, a couple of things that just do this, Ben? This is just do this and you'll get started. What would be those playbook things and just be good at this?
So there's two things I probably raise. So first is if you're a new CDO, you're moving into an organization, you need to get out there and be talking to all of your peers and as many people as you can. I used to be known as the coffee and cake lady in London for ages because I used to stand on stage going, can you just get out there and speak to people, take them to a coffee shop, buy them a cake, sugar them up, make them all happy, and then start and build those kind of relationships, because it's key to a CDO being successful is having those level of relationships. Because data flows everywhere, it's a lot like water in an organization, over, under, around, or through. Data will find a way. So at some point in time, you will have to work with these people to make what you want to happen. And it's much easier doing that from a standpoint of an already healthy working relationship. So first rule number one, and when you talk to them, you don't talk data. You ask them about what's keeping them awake at night, what's frightening them, what they're hopeful, what they're trying to do, what their ambitions are, all of those kind of things, because it's your job to translate that into how you use data to help them. It's not their job to solve all your problems by giving you the data problem on a silver platter. So I guess that's my tip number one. And I guess the second tip is, I talk to a lot of organizations. It's about creating what I would call a pirate's map. So
tell me about that.
I
I want
tell you
some treasure.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants a bit of treasure. So helping organizations, you get your pirate's map, and it's simple as is you do some kind of maturity assessment, so you figure out where you are, because where you are dictates the next step for you. If you think about it, if you're in one of those huge shopping malls and you get one of those little maps that go X is here, well, you can be anywhere but in the organization, but you need to know where you're starting from to know whether the shop you want is that way or that way. It's exactly the same as with a maturity assessment. Where are you on your pirate's map, so you know the right starting point? You then need a vision, which is this wonderful, powerful description, something akin of like something, imagine Oz in your mind, of like, it's that incredible. And this is the goal that you're going to go after. This is what you're going to create, this shiny example of using data, and create a vision that's going to encapsulate how you're going to use data to help your organization underpin themselves and what they're trying to do. And then the strategy is, how do you take the steps from one to the other? But imagine that every single one of those steps, the pirates have dropped a little bit of gold on the way to dropping the treasure off. And every single one of those steps should be a problem that you solve, or something you should fix or make better for your organization on the way.
You mean I can get incremental treasure?
Incremental treasure. That's a good way of putting it.
I thought I needed to, spend 3 years putting a program in place, and then I get to a treasure. No? Oh my God.
No, don't do it.
Oh, well, I mean, I get a lot of folks saying, buy this tool and put it in 2 years and your problems are solved.
I'm a big fan, being a CIO and a CTO in my previous life, I'm a big fan of technology. But if technology alone was going to solve the data problem, after all the money we fueled into it, it probably would have solved it by now, Ben.
I got you. So playbook number one, talk to people.
Good starting point.
Coffee and cakes is a starting point. What I heard is, look at it as, how do you help them? It's not for them to help you. Your job is to help them be successful. After I talk to people, then I got to create this treasure map, right? What is this treasure map that is, here's the big things, but here's some little things along the way. And part of that is maybe doing a maturity assessment.
Absolutely.
Like, where would I do that? How would I find out how to do that? Because it seems pretty fundamental to do maturity assessment.
So there's different maturity assessments out there. Obviously, I would be remiss in saying Carruthers and Jackson have one, everybody.
Oh, I'm sure it's stellar.
Oh, it's wonderful. I can't tell you how fantastic it is. But it's also there for everybody to use, because we write it's the maturity assessment is written about in detail in our orange book, which is data-driven business transformation. Okay. So you don't need us to come in and do this for you. You could read the book and it gives you a good starting point.
It's a good start. Okay.
Good starting point. You then got Dharma has one. I know that the EGM Council has one. So there is a plethora of maturity assessments out there. Find one that suits your organization. So, have a quick look at it. It should speak to you. It should be terms that you understand, that it makes sense to you. And that's your starting point. Once you do that, you can either bring somebody in to help you, or you can do it yourself. It depends on how big your team is and how much capacity you have, Ben, on and how you do those kind of things. What's important is you take the first step.
Gotcha. I'm curious, any special words of advice for playbooks for regulatory or ethics? It's like, how to be good at that?
So I think that when it comes to ethics, especially when it comes to regulation, it's understanding the ethics and the regulation that you want to put in place. I mean, a simple one to ethics that I always fall back on is, if I would be proud at the end of the day to tell my mum what I've done that day, then I've probably been pretty ethical about it.
I love the mum test. I got to tell you, the mum test is always the thing. Like, if your mom can understand what you do, that's a start.
That's always a really good start. Now, that's probably taking longer than the mum test of whether she'd be proud of you what you did.
Exactly. But, I think when we think about CDOs and enterprises, it's enterprises, which means it has to be messaging that people understand. It's not about the technology.
It has to be. And, everybody in your organization is using data, whether they are greeting somebody at the front desk, whether they're interacting heavily with the data team and using a lot of the work that comes from them. In some way, shape, or form, they're interacting with it. So everybody should be able to understand it. We shouldn't be trying to limit through language who can actually access what we do.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So, Caroline, you've got a book out, right? I can go to Amazon and buy this book and get
You
your.
can.
And I'm looking for the primer for you writing the data for school children to learn about the.
Mate, I'll put that on my list. That'll be on my list of things.
That's your next chapter. What haven't I asked you that you wanted to share today, Caroline?
I think the only thing that we haven't spoken about, Ben, that I'm really, really passionate about, it's another one of my work babies, I guess, is the Data Leader Summer School.
Yeah, tell me about that.
It was a big part of what we felt was a give back to the community. The data community has been fantastic to us. It's vibrant, it's wonderful, it's helpful. I think it's really welcoming. And we wanted to do something that really encouraged people to come and join us as data leaders and help skill people up for the future. So the concept of Data Leader was born. We've just completed our 5th year. It runs once a year and it's basically free. Runs for 10 weeks over the summer, and it'll take up your Thursday, well, mornings, afternoons, and night, depending on where you are in the world. And you'll get material and homework, and you'll be connected to a wonderful plethora of other fantastic data people out there. And it's aimed at kind of the people who are maybe 1 to 2 off being a chief data officer. So for all the wonderful data leaders out there, if you're interested in upskilling some of your teams, then maybe put them in touch with summer school and get them on the waiting list for next year.
That's a fantastic thing. And if I sign up, will you let me in?
Do you know what, Ben? Just for you, I'll make sure you're on the list.
I got some learning to do here.
I think you contribute. You'll be helping us.
Oh, this sounds fascinating. Well, Caroline, this has been. I got to tell you this. I'm starting my Monday morning off here at 8 a.m. and you've energized me today. It's been fantastic. And we've got a conference coming out. You got to come out here. I've got a big conference in July. It's a Data Connect, and it's focused on. It started out with a Women in Analytics conference, and
amazing. I would love to.
Come on out to this side of the pond.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Caroline, for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. It's been fabulous.